Exactly 4 years ago, I dropped the first single from my debut album, The Ascent. The song is called Gravity Well. This is a song I'm still super proud of, and it features some pretty interesting guitar parts. There are no keyboards on The Ascent, just guitar, bass, and drums, and because of that I had to get creative on ways to make the guitar fill up space that the keyboard would normally handle in a progressive metal band. I want to take a closer look at two of these unique sounding guitar parts, starting with this tapping section. This section is in 19/8, and the guitar is playing straight 16th notes. My idea here was for this to sound very mechanical, and to have it create an atmosphere so the rhythm can shine underneath it. This part involves 3 right-hand tapping fingers, and I'm essentially treating the guitar like a piano. All of the notes here are created with hammer-ons from nowhere, and because of that I'm using a hairband to remove excess noise. There are 38 16th notes total in 19/8, and this is broken into smaller chunks that then add up to the 38. The entirety of this section comes from F-sharp Dorian, and it starts with this 7-note pattern. A couple of tips when playing these multi-finger tapping parts. Since we have a clean sound here, make sure you have a decent amount of compression. It's going to help with the consistency of the notes and allow all of them to come through more clearly. Also, make sure you hammer on pretty hard with both hands. It's the only way to get that mechanical sound, and it helps to keep the volume even on every note. I'm essentially playing power chord shapes in the left and right hand here. And one of the reasons this sounds more keyboard-like is the use of these larger intervals. These kinds of patterns are very difficult to play with a pick, and multi-finger tapping is a good way to create guitar parts that don't sound like traditional guitar playing. The 7-note pattern plays twice. And then there's this 5-note pattern. And there the low note E moves to follow what the bass and a rhythm guitar are doing, because they're moving from F sharp to E as well. And then we play the 7-note pattern again. So the whole first half of this section looks like this. So far I've played 26 16th notes, leaving 12 16th notes left in a measure of 19/8. And next up is another use of these power chord shapes, but this time starting on the 11th fret of the D string. To finish it off, there's this 8-note pattern. And this for me is the hardest part to play, so I'd spend some extra time on that when you're practicing this lick. If I string all those chunks together, we'll have the entire measure, and that sounds like this played slowly. As far as practicing this, I would take each of these smaller chunks, practice them individually, and then slowly string them together. This is one that really needs to be memorized because of how much both hands are jumping around, and it is quite difficult to play, especially up to speed with a clean tone, but once you get it there, it's pretty satisfying. The other guitar part I want to look at is this muted sweeping lick. Rhythmically, this is still in 19/8, but here it's divided as 6, 6, and 7 as 16th notes. That 6, 6, 7 pattern plays twice, and that fills up a bar of 19/8. The pattern looks like this. I'm sweeping up while heavily muting, and the goal here is to make every note sound really aggressive. And one way I do that is to pick pretty hard. I'm still letting the pick glide across the strings like I normally would when sweeping, but I'm digging in a lot more. This is the pattern for the 6-note groupings. And for the 7-note groupings, I'm just adding one more note on top. And the highest note on the 7-note groupings is not muted so that it really pops out. It is pretty tricky to play this evenly, especially when palm muting so heavily. So when you're practicing this, that's the main thing I would focus on. So there are a couple of alien-sounding guitar parts from Gravity Well. It's fun to explore different kinds of guitar textures. I find for me it can lead to some new sounds when I'm composing. So learn these licks and then try to take some of these ideas into your own music. As always, if you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share. Till next time, stay proggy.